Milos, you mentioned so much about your grandmother and the wonderful sound that she created when she was singing to you. Can you describe your sound? Do you feel that your sound has an identity?
I think it's all about the sound. I think, and when I speak to young guitarists, I always say, I don't care how fast your fingers can play. I only care about how distinctive and connected your sound is. Because we all try to imitate a voice, and every instrument is made to give us that feeling of a voice. And that's why I think it's such an unfair advantage when you work with singers, is because they just have to create a sound of their voice and the whole attention is immediately on them. But for me, somehow, while I was always listening to as a teenager to John Williams, like, oh my God, like I was eating the albums of John Williams. And then of course, when I came to the academy, I had suddenly a whole library of music and recordings because I didn't have any of that in Montenegro. And I was obsessed with Julian Bream and his commissioned works from the 20th century and all this stuff that I had no clue about. And David was coming a couple of times a year to give master classes, and I got to know him better and to experience that personality and this sound. And so they have formed one part of my musical personality as a guitarist, but the side of my personality as a musician was actually formed by being completely obsessed with opera. And listening to incredible recordings of the great opera singers, and trying to actually, when I was working on a piece of guitar music, trying to think, how would my favorite soprano sing that? Or where is the breathing? Why is there a color change there? Why there is a portamento? Why is there, what is that makes this so special? And for me, it became like an unwritten law that if I'm playing something, if I technically failed in a bar or got something wrong, that's not a big deal. But if I disconnected a thread, a golden thread of a line within the texture, and because guitar is quite complicated, we have harmonies and melodies always somewhere. And if that golden line has been interrupted, that's when I really failed. Because the moment you disconnect that line, and when you lose that human voice that you are putting into the instrument, is the moment when you lose the attention of the member of the audience. A member of the audience doesn't care if your finger missed a string or created some sort of a flaw in the texture, because that's human. And that's just only inevitable. And if we accept that that's always going to happen, no matter how hard we try, that's going to give us the liberty to actually be able to create sound where string becomes a voice, in my case.
And I mean, what I find interesting about your playing is that I forget that you're playing a guitar. You know,
Yeah.
it is quite simply, and I think that's such an important lesson for us all, because of course we are trained to be instrumentalists. And I remember thinking about my very first percussion lesson, whereby my teacher at school saw all of us who were playing percussion as sound creators first and foremost, then musicians, because you have to know how to put the sound together. So you have to understand the structure of a musical phrase, and then instrumentalists. And that was really fascinating for me, because it meant that anything you did, you weren't worried so much about the the technique or trying to copy something else, trying to stand in the correct position, because what was correct is what is the sound you want to produce. So, you know, I have a pen here, so, and if somebody said, well, that's your instrument for the day, I think, right, what sounds can I produce with this pen? And it is quite fascinating because it brings on the thought about the fact that, well, we're you know, drowning in social media and so on, and certainly this past year, you know, we're all connecting in so many different ways, different platforms that we're exploring. And for our younger generation, they are exposed to the YouTube performances so that they can see how a performer plays, they can listen to how a performer plays, and so on. They can't feel the vibration so much of the sound, but nevertheless, do you think that these platforms has changed the way we what am I really trying to say here? We respond to music, or we progress with our own musical voice, how we might explore our own musical voice. Does it aid or hinder how we learn a piece of music?
It's been a question that's on my mind for a good couple of years, and it's never been more present in my mind than over the last year. There is something so incredibly special in looking forward to a performance of your hero, not knowing what your hero eats for breakfast or thinks of something that is normal people's life. There is something so incredibly satisfying in that moment, just a couple of minutes before your musical hero steps on stage and produces the first note. And the vibration of that note hits you so deeply and it moves you forever and you never forget it. I think that new technology has taken that away from us completely. And I worry for the next generation of musicians, because the priorities have, as a result of that, changed completely. And I think that while it is incredibly educational and wonderful to have access to so many videos of live performances and to see and to learn from your heroes and how they do it, actually great art becomes muddled in the sea of mediocre or sub-mediocre art. And as a result, all of it becomes so disposable and so unholy. I mean, it's something that I still cannot quite accept, and something I still don't quite understand, and I don't really see how I, as an artist, can also change in order to take that to my advantage. And you know, with my kind of career and with a very wide audience that I have, I sometimes think that it's expected of me, and I don't often know how to give it, because it's just not my personality to share every aspect of my life, because I feel that every aspect of my life is not relevant to my music making. And I want the person that I play for in that live concert to feel my internal process, not to have my external process exposed as a live on Instagram or on Twitter or on YouTube or on Facebook. I just find that so hard to accept and to understand.